Tonight, a family secrets burst in a courtroom where love, betrayal, and lies come crashing together. A single shocking revelation can tear it all apart, but no one has any idea who will emerge unbroken. You won't believe what follows. Stay to the end and ask yourself, what would you do if your entire family turned against you? The courtroom is electric before anyone opens their mouth. The tension thick in the air as sunlight pours through the tall windows, creating long shadows on the gleaming wooden floor. Kody is seated at the defense table, his hands tightly wrapped together, knuckles white, a man generally unflappable now, full of barely suppressed tension. Across the room, Christine's eyes are sharp, calculating, her lips pressed into a line, while Robyn's posture is tense but resolute, as if she's bracing for a storm she knows is coming. Janelle fidgets with a tissue, a small tremor running through her hand, and Meri's gaze is distant, lost somewhere between fear and disbelief. The judge brings the court to order, and a silence descends like a heavy blanket upon all present. The case is a civil action involving family finances and real estate, but beneath the lines go much deeper. Old grievances, unspoken betrayals, and tenuous alliances that might shatter with one word. Kody's mouth is open, but nothing emits, not yet. The pressure of years of nuanced family dynamics bears down on him. Christine comes forward, her voice slicing like a knife through the quiet, detailing every fact she thinks constitutes mismanagement, every payment late, every tiny slight over the course of the years. The tension mounts in waves, a combination of contained rage and terror, as each accusation thuds like a hammer against a cold, hard stone. Robyn's defense is muted but accurate, her voice firm as she systematically refutes Christine's claims, pointing out inconsistencies, each refutation like a well-directed arrow. Can you even imagine how it would feel to be sitting in a room where one single word had the power to alter your life forever? Janelle's voice trembles as she talks, regarding her own viewpoint, the little injustices she's experienced but never spoken of, and the camera picks up every twitch of emotion, every nervous look towards Kody as if silently requesting his support. Meri is disproportionately quiet, her mind concealed behind the mask of serenity, yet her fingers hovering over the edge of her water glass, revealing the turbulence in secret. Flashbacks punctuate the dialogue, family dinners where there are more words unsaid than spoken, whispered exchanges in kitchens late into the night, the unseen ways jealousy and favoritism had insidiously seeped into their lives over time. The judge does interrupt, reminding the crowd to maintain decorum, but the tension is real. The crowd can sense the weight of years of repressed emotion on the verge of bursting forth. Kody finally does say something, his voice measured, near pleading, attempting to bridge gaps that feel impossible to reach, but with each statement seems to open rather than close wounds. Christine sits back, folding her arms, a smile playing on the edge of her lips, sure of the arguments she's presented, and Robyn looks to Kody, a flash of terror in her eyes, wondering if he can handle the stress of this tempest. You won't believe the secrets being revealed that could destroy everything you thought you knew of this family. The plaintiff's attorney submits papers, receipts, and bank statements, each bit of evidence adding another level to the growing tension, and the camera focuses on the reaction of each character. A raised brow, a sharp gasp, a slight clench of a jaw. Janelle's voice quivers as she recounts her own experience, tears welling, and the audience can feel the heartbreak that has been simmering quietly behind polite smiles and calm appearances. Meri finally speaks, her voice low but firm, revealing a hidden perspective that no one else had considered, causing the courtroom to murmur with surprise. The air is suddenly electric with anticipation and shock. Picture being in a room where all eyes are on you and every word that comes out of your mouth has the power to spark a flame that gets out of your hands. The prosecutor starts cross-examining Kody and the room tenses again. Each pause, each chosen word is picked apart, amplified, until even the most minute pause sounds like an admission. Christine leans forward, eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of someone who feels vindicated, while Robyn quietly watches, calculating her next move, trying to shield her emotions from the public gaze. Outside, the world seems to continue as normal, but inside, time has slowed, each moment stretching into what feels like an eternity. Flashbacks persist, weaving a rich brocade of family life. Birthdays in which alliances subtly realigned, muttered rows in the dead of night, the tense silence at the breakfast table that no one dared ignore. The camera remains on minute details, a nervous hand brushing over a knee, an impatient foot tapping, darting eyes to read the responses of others. Kody's voice breaks, crying out for sense, for compassion, but Christine's counterattack is quick and biting, sending the courtroom abuzz with shock and incredulity. The secret kept for all those years is beginning to emerge, and once it's been spoken, there's no taking it back. Testimonies go on, each of the family members giving their account, each sentence dripping with emotion, tension, and implications. The crowd sensing every spike in anger, fear, and heartbreak. Robyn's measured words start to turn some opinions, but Christine's steadfast resolve keeps the room poised, waiting for the other shoe to fall. Janelle's tears are quiet but potent, a reminder that even in the midst of legal proceedings, the emotional toll is immense, and Meri's quiet strength provides a stark contrast, hinting at a resilience no one could have predicted. The judge asks for a brief recess, and the room exhales collectively, the temporary pause giving everyone a moment to regroup, to process, to brace for the next wave. Outside the court, rumors swirl, speculations flying, each family member withdrawing into their own world, thinking about what has been heard and what is yet to be said. What would you do if all the secrets that you had left behind were suddenly exposed to your entire family? As the hearing continues, a new turn takes place. A hitherto unrevealed document, a stunning disclosure that turns the courtroom on its head, with every face inscribed with disbelief, fear, or vindication. The tension tightens. Voices swell a notch, emotions overflow, and the audience is pulled deeper into the maelstrom of betrayal, secrets, and unstated grievances. Every look shared carries unspoken significance. Allegiances are tested in small but insidious ways, and the heaviness of decades of complex family history hangs over all of them. Kody attempts to intervene, to quell the tempest, but now the courtroom has taken on its own cadence, a cadence of confrontation and disclosure in which each little movement might ignite the next great eruption. Christine relaxes back, content that her message has hit home, while Robyn's guarded looks betray a sense of fear, tension, and resolve. Janelle dabs away her tears, but vulnerability still lingers, the raw emotion leaving its mark on everyone present, while Meri stands quietly with an air of continuing enigma, reminding us that there is more depth to this than anyone yet knows. The courtroom is a powder keg, and the slightest spark might set off a blast that will transform all their lives forever. Lawyers protest, witnesses fidget anxiously, and the judge demands order, but the undertow of tension is unrelenting, a living, breathing thing that flows through the room. Kody gazes around at his family, taking in the cracks, the loyalties, the hurt, and for one brief moment, the man who has always been the focus of this family feels the overwhelming burden of duty and sadness. Christine's contentment is almost palpable, but there's a hint of nervousness because she knows that the courtroom, as well as the family, can shift in an instant. Robyn's unblinking stare says more than words ever could, and Janelle's muted agony is a reminder that sometimes the strongest voices are those least heard. Meri finally makes a tiny deliberate comment, subtly altering the dynamic, the court leaning forward to catch every detail, every elaborately measured syllable. The tension is at a fever pitch, every scene building like a coiled spring waiting to explode, and the audience can feel the beat of drama like it was their own. The session is concluded with a bombshell dropped by Christine, a surprise that has the potential to rip asunder what little peace had lingered, leaving the courtroom in utter silence and the members of the family looking at each other with looks of shock, fear, and anticipation of what is yet to come. If you think this is dramatic, wait for more. The true twists are yet to come, and one wrong move could alter everything for this family forever. The courtroom falls silent after the dramatic recess, and a somber quiet sits in the air, interrupted only by the rustle of papers and the hushed hum of expectation. Kody leans forward, interlocking his fingers, attempting to calm his wild heartbeat as he prepares for what's to follow. Christine stands up first, her face impassive and hard, and starts to read off a list of incriminating text messages, emails, and voicemails that were kept secret from the rest of the family, one after another exposing secrets and deceptions that hit harder than anyone could have imagined. The judge leans forward over the top of their glasses, indicating the seriousness of the evidence, and the courtroom leans forward collectively, its collective breath held. Robyn's eyes widen in response to the initial revelation, a flash of fear crossing her otherwise calm face, and Kody's jaw clenches as he grapples for words to answer without further fueling tensions. Janelle's face goes pale as she reads through a message that directly implicates her, and Meri fidgets uncomfortably in her seat, aware that the dynamic in the courtroom is starting to swing unpredictably in favor of the people. Can you picture being blindsided by people you trust most in the entire world right before a public crowd of strangers? The air grows heavy as the plaintiff's attorney starts calling witnesses, friends, familial confidants, and even former household staff, each testimony spinning an inextricable web of allegations, disparate recollections, and concealed agendas. One after another, each testimony pours gasoline on the fire, not only uncovering financial mishandling, but also emotional manipulation, nepotism, and hush betrayals that had smoldered for years. Kody stands up to defend himself, his voice firm but tinged with desperation, trying to sort out misunderstandings, protect intentions, and assure the court that nothing was done out of ill will. Christine cuts in abruptly, her tone curt, slicing through Kody's words with sharp accusations, and the courtroom erupts in murmurs, some of shock, others of incredulity. The tension is so thick you could almost cut it with a knife, and every second feels like a ticking time bomb. Robyn stands to testify, and her voice quivers slightly at first, betraying the emotional toll, but she quickly gathers strength, recounting moments of loyalty and devotion that contrast starkly with the accusations, painting Kody in a sympathetic light while also highlighting the complexity of the relationships involved. The camera pans across the courtroom, capturing Janelle's subtle nods of acknowledgement, Meri's thoughtful frowns, and Christine's unwavering gaze, each reaction revealing layers of emotion and history that words alone cannot convey. A hush falls as a particularly explosive piece of evidence is revealed. A handwritten note that implicates Kody in a decision that no one expected. A move that could unravel everything he has tried to protect. The family gasps audibly, and the judge raises a hand for calm, but the impact is already irreversible. Imagine discovering a hidden truth about someone you love deeply, a truth that changes everything you thought you knew. The defense attorney requests a quick recess, recognizing that the courtroom is on the verge of collapse, and Kody goes off to a side room with slumped shoulders, struggling with the psychological burden of being criticized in public while attempting to stay composed. Christine, on the other hand, greets the press cameras outside with a sense of satisfaction and wariness, well aware that the tale is far from over, that the next few minutes in court will set the course in ways nobody can yet imagine. When the hearing continues, Janelle gives testimony on her own behalf, talking in shaking clarity about the ways in which the dynamics of the household have impacted on her. Instances that have been concealed long enough behind nervous smiles and courteous conversation. Her words tingle deeply, provoking empathy and muddying the waters as she recounts incidents of favoritism, exclusion, and warning whispers never acted upon, and leaves the court with a vivid image of the emotions swirling within the family. You won't believe the secrets about to be uncovered, secrets that could forever alter the family. Robyn takes the stand again, this time with evidence that nobody saw coming. A letter that had been sent her years ago, secretly written, outlining complaints and issues that were never voiced. The judge reads it closely, the courtroom buzzing in expectation as Kody breathes out slowly, his expression both relieved and terrified, realizing that this new information could free him or further complicate things. Christine refuses to give up, enlisting the services of a family friend to testify to long-term tensions, drawing out tiny moments of lying and dishonesty that add up to a bigger picture, each tale adding another level of tension and emotion. It's impossible for the audience to tear their eyes away. Each new revelation is a knife, cutting through years of presumed trust, and the emotional stakes are never higher. The courtroom becomes near intolerably charged when Meri is finally called to the stand, her own composure unflappable but her language cutting, painting a picture of the inner dynamics of the family and the delicate web of loyalty and betrayal that has been masterfully concealed. Her evidence turns things around subtly but forcefully, casting doubt and making all concerned, Kody, Christine, and Robyn included, reevaluate what they believed they had known. The cross-examination is relentless, each question searching deeper, each response veiled in emotion, hesitation, and unstated truth. Kody, with the weight of decades of complicated relationships bearing down on him, has trouble keeping his thoughts straight, his voice sometimes cracking under the pressure of being both father and guardian, husband and accused, in a courtroom that seems as judgmental as any jury. Imagine the intensity of each choice, each word placed under scrutiny in a crowded room with your closest friends and strangers all around. Tempers rise when Christine brings an unexpected witness, an old employee who testifies that he witnessed Robyn making a pivotal choice without the family's knowledge. The courtroom is abuzz with whispers as eyes flick between Robyn and the accuser, the hint of fear flashing across her face for a split second before she composes herself to justify her actions with a steady yet firm word that raises more questions than answers. Janelle's tears come back as she remembers previous attempts to broker peace, listening powerlessly as fights raged out of control, and the audience is suffused with her despair. The cumulative, slow burn of years of unspoken hurt erupting in her quivering voice. Each secret, each pent-up feeling lies on the table, and you can sense the buildup with every second. Kody stands again, attempting to appeal to logic, attempting to reconcile contradictory statements, but Christine's interruption is cutting, acute, and fatal, slicing through his arguments and compelling him to face elements of the truth he had not yet been willing to confront. The judge blinks, and the court leans in as a unit, everyone knowing that the next couple of minutes would forever alter the family's dynamics. The emotional stakes are sustained as Robyn brings back to mind instances of individual sacrifice and silent devotion, trying to bring a human element to the complicated choices she has made, and the tension between her testimony and Christine's allegations keeps the room in suspense. If you believe you've ever witnessed betrayal, wait until these courtroom secrets unpick everything you believed you knew. Tensions rise further as a surprise letter surfaces, apparently from Kody to an undisclosed family member, revealing concerns and fears he had never shared publicly. The content shakes the family, forcing them to confront the reality of hidden truths and private conflicts that have shaped their lives far more than anyone had realized. The courtroom, whispers, murmurs spreading as the characters respond, Christine with pleasure, Robyn with calculating deliberation, Janelle with tears, and Meri with soft, reflective recognition. Each look, each fleeting expression speaks as much as the words themselves, creating a rich tapestry of emotional investment that holds and shatters this family together. The session ends with a high-powered cliffhanger. A witness appears with a claim so surprising, so stunning, that the entire courtroom is transfixed. All eyes on the speaker, the room holding its collective breath as the anticipation hangs suspended like a storm on the verge of release. Might this news be the revelation to finally blow asunder the fragile threads that keep this family bound? Time alone will tell, and you won't dare miss a moment of what happens next. The courtroom holds its breath, the sort of quiet that is palpable, nearly pressing against each heartbeat as the next witness takes the stand, and Kody prepares himself, hands damp, attempting to calm his breathing while under the crushing weight of years of family stress bearing down upon him. Christine's lips twitch with a small, triumphant smile as the witness, a close family friend, takes the stand and starts to recount instances of claimed deceit and partiality, her voice steady but the words loaded with suggestion, causing waves of shock to ripple through the courtroom. Robyn inclines forward, her eyes focusing keenly, reading all the nuances of testimony, every hesitation and pause, painstakingly working out the next reply, while Kody squirms uncomfortably in his seat, a combination of fear and determination etched on his features. Could you cope with being accused by those nearest to you, each sentence ripping open scars long believed to be healed? Janelle dabs at a tear on her cheek, her voice shaking as she tells of her own painful recollections. Moments when she was pushed to the side and not listened to, when her ideas were scoffed at in backroom conversations but had currency in others' silent imaginings. Meri sits demurely, near statuette-like, her tranquil demeanor concealing a maelstrom of thoughts, and when she does speak, her words are measured and razor-sharp, disclosing a point of view no one else in the courtroom has yet offered, defying the neatly constructed myth which Christine has constructed bit by bit. The judge inclines forward, an indication that this evidence is given a lot of weight, and the courtroom mutters in a mix of incredulity and intrigue, everyone sensing the strain as a body pulse. As Robyn stands to testify, her voice is more even than you'd expect, but laced with emotion as she speaks of covert meetings, whispered warnings, and private choices with far-reaching effects. her words weaving a portrait of a family ensnared in a mesh of loyalty, dishonesty, and crossed signals. Each word seems a knife, and you can practically hear the tension slicing the air. Kody is ready to provide his account, voice strong but colored with pain, laying out his motives, attempting to unravel years of emotional entanglement into a workable narrative. But Christine cuts in waspishly, her voice dripping with contempt and gratification, disputing every statement with accurate precision. Janelle's hands tremble as she picks up a folder containing personal notes, letters, and diaries that expose instances of uncertainty and fear she had never spoken about before, stripping her bare of her vulnerability to the courtroom and the viewers watching at home. Meri's testimony adds yet another layer of complexity, offering insight into alliances and missteps, quiet betrayals, and protective measures, leaving Kody momentarily speechless, a rare crack in his otherwise steady demeanor. Imagine sitting in a courtroom where every secret you've tried to hide is being exposed, and there's no turning back. The tension is palpable as the defense attorney produces a hitherto unpublished tape, a recording that casts doubt on Christine's story, her face nodding, a flash of panic darting across her eyes as she understands that the tale might not be one-sided as she had assumed. Robyn listens carefully, recognizing that this bit of evidence could tip the weight of the case, and Kody's face is a blend of hope and fear as though he can see at last a way to defend not just his reputation but the family he has worked so hard to keep intact. The courtroom leans in collectively, the tension almost unbearable, each character acutely aware that the next few minutes could redefine their relationships forever. You won't believe the shocking revelation about to hit that could change everything you thought you knew about this family. As the witness continues to narrate another shocking incident, a clandestine meeting, a private quarrel overheard, a vow broken, the atmosphere tightens around all of them, as if the room itself is sustaining its breath in expectation. Christine stands again, her voice a sword, cutting through the courtroom with biting accusations and piercing questions, compelling Kody, Robyn, Janelle, and Meri to explain not only things they've done, but the integrity of their hearts. Kody breathes in deeply, attempting to wrap the pieces of his family's past into words that will not only make sense to the judge, but to all those who are witnessing this personal disentanglement. Each truth is like a lightning bolt, unexpected and jolting, and it leaves no one unscathed. The tension cranks up again when Robyn produces a document that had been kept clandestine, outlining monetary choices, emotional compromises, and acts of fidelity opposite some of Christine's most adamant claims. The courtroom visibly responds. Whispers circulate through the crowd. Some incline forward in amazement. Others share glances of shock and intrigue, the emotional investment increasing second by second. Janelle's testimony grows more and more emotive as she describes the silent suffering she had to go through, moments of exclusion and subtle humiliation that had not been detected by outsiders, leaving the courtroom stunned by the naked vulnerability of her language. Meri, composed but sharp, cuts through the session with an insight that redefines much that has been heard, innuendo casting doubt upon previous testimonies without losing a quiet command that cannot be ignored. Can you stand before a crowd of people analyzing your every utterance, every motive, every decision you've ever made? The prosecutor brings in a surprise witness, someone not previously discussed, who comes forward to offer testimony capable of tearing everything apart, unveiling intimate talk and hidden strains thought to be long since buried. Christine's jaw clenches, her finely crafted calm fraying for an instant as Robyn straightens up, ready to grab the chance to make excuses for herself and her husband, selecting words with care to tell the truth without fanning hostilities too high. Kody stands to counter the new accusations, his voice measured but laced with emotion, trying to weave the complex tapestry of family background, loyalty, and misunderstanding into a coherent story, both for the court and the viewing public. Picture the psychological burden of having each secret hidden in your heart and each unsaid word analyzed in front of your entire family. The courtroom leans in as tensions erupt, whispers circulate, and discreet gestures, a hand around a table, a tapping foot, narrowed eyes, say more, conveying the emotional richness of the scene more effectively than words. Janelle remembers another traumatic incident, an altercation that happened years earlier but left a lasting impression, her voice shaking as she reenacts the memory, leaving all parties, even the judge, visibly moved by the naked emotion present in the room. Robyn refutes with tales of compromise, loyalty, and small sacrifices, reminding the court that the tale is never as black and white as it seems. that love, duty, and heartache become entwined in ways that no one outside can ever hope to truly grasp. Secrets disclosed in this courtroom are ripping open old sores, and the tension is almost palpable. Throughout the session, Christine presents one last piece of evidence, a letter written by Kody many years earlier, casting suspicion over his motives, implying manipulation and favoritism that will drastically tip the case. Kody's face tightens with the knowledge that this document will dominate the next phase of testimony, and Robyn's careful glance toward him speaks volumes. They must navigate this storm together, without faltering, without letting emotion overpower reason. Meri's calm intervention offers a subtle counterpoint, suggesting alternate interpretations that leave the courtroom pondering the deeper complexities of the family's dynamics. Each second in this courtroom is a powder keg waiting to blow with the next bombshell. The judge orders a temporary halt, a moment for the courtroom to come to terms with what has been shown, and outside the doors, the world holds its breath knowing that when the session is resumed, the stakes will be higher still. Christine curls up for a moment with her lawyer, eyes flashing with resolve. Robyn mouths comforting words to Kody, and Janelle draws a deep breath, steeling herself for the confrontation to come. The last few minutes of Session 3 crescendo into a stunning cliffhanger, a revelation of a secret allegiance within the family, a betrayal so profound that it will forever change the dynamics between these very people at the very heart of this home. Each face in the courtroom shows shock, fear, or guarded expectation, and the audience is held in suspense, waiting for the next moment of revelation. Would this secret be the one to take the family beyond the point of no return? Stay tuned, for the drama is not even close to over, and the most emotional showdowns are yet to come. The courtroom atmosphere is heavy with tension, charged with expectation, and just below the surface emotion. As the proceedings get underway and Kody sits stiff, jaw clenched, eyes flicking between Christine, Robyn, Janelle, and Meri, aware that today, nothing is going to be sugar-coated and every secret is going to come out. Christine stands up first, her tone cutting, slicing through the tension like a knife, describing another betrayal that nobody could possibly have anticipated, mentioning hushed words, clandestine meetings, and unspoken partnerships that have built silently over years to erode trust in the family. Robyn squirms in her chair, clutching the tabletop edge with white-knuckled hands, her heart racing as she listens, aware she has to answer with cool precision when her emotions are on the verge of overflowing. Imagine standing before a room full of your loved ones, revealing everything you've ever sought to keep hidden. Janelle's voice shakes as she starts to testify, describing times when loyalty was in doubt and love was conditional, tears streaming down her face as experiences she kept hidden for decades pour out publicly, aching and bitter. The audience can almost sense the embarrassment of her vulnerability, the air in the room growing thick as each sentence cuts deeper into the tapestry of family cohesion. Meri, silent until now, rises slowly, her gaze steady, almost icy, and begins delivering her testimony with a calm precision that belies the storm she carries inside, revealing facts and observations that nobody had considered, upending the careful narratives built by both Christine and Robyn. The judge watches intently, eyes narrowing as the drama unfolds while whispers ripple through the gallery, each new revelation sending shockwaves across the room. Kody finally stands, his voice thick with emotion, attempting to reconcile the painful realities being exposed, stating his side, justifying his actions, and begging for empathy. Yet Christine cuts him off over and over again, biting and relentless, compelling Kody to pick his way through the emotional minefield with careful, shaking words. Each revelation is like a knife, cutting through years of trust and fidelity, leaving nothing unscarred. The prosecutor summons yet another witness, a far-off relative who is privy to intimate family discussions, whose evidence risks totally recasting the courtroom's view of the family's dynamics, challenging assumed facts and compelling every member to face the ramifications of what they've done. Robyn advances, her voice firm but underscored with urgency, recounting sacrifice and acts of preserving the family from danger, her speech pointing up the richness of the relationships while also gently countering Christine's charges. Janelle's tears flow on, her feelings unvarnished, as she describes moments where she was made invisible, cut out of decision-making, and bullied by subtle cues she never spoke up about until today. The courtroom held in thrall by sympathy and shock. Picture yourself in a room where every intimate thought and secret is being publicly aired for the first time, and you can't dictate the script. Meri, poised yet biting in her narration, describes intimate conversations and coalitions that defy preconception, illuminating the complex truth of a family torn between love, fidelity, and treachery, every word weighed but lancing to the core. Kody tries to get a word in, his voice cracking slightly as he struggles to explain motive, clear misunderstanding, and justify his devotion to keeping the family together. But Christine's interruptions are sharp and relentless, causing audible gasps from the audience and gallery. The courtroom becomes more heated as a shocking piece of evidence is presented. A personal letter written by Kody years earlier, one that implies partiality and secret decision-making, immediately causing the courtroom to erupt into chaos. Robyn responds in a subtle way, her eyes narrowing, while Janelle's hand shakes as she grips a tissue, attempting to stabilize herself, and Meri's silent observation provides a prism that reshapes the letter's effect, creating waves of tension throughout the room. Would you be able to hold it together if all your faults, all your secrets, and all your intentions ever were examined before those you love? Christine walks a little closer, relishing the theatrical experience of the moment, her voice slicing across the room as she methodically outlines the implications of the evidence, her conviction unbroken, but a hint of uncertainty crosses her face as she registers the faint reactions of Robyn and Kody. The emotion builds in the audience as Kody stands again, shaking his voice as he tells of his own struggles, moments of doubt and sacrifices for the family, trying to make his decisions more human and one of sympathy. But the courtroom atmosphere is still tension-filled, each sentence analyzed by the judge, the attorneys, and the family. Robyn responds, bringing a passionate appeal, stating intentions were misinterpreted, that love and loyalty prompted every move. Her words both a defense and challenge to Christine's relentless denials. All eyes are on her, all ears attuned, as feelings radiate through the room like an unquenchable tide. Janelle's witness becomes even more tear-jerking as she describes instances where she was left abandoned or silenced, the sound of her cracking voice, tears streaming down freely, and the audience can well imagine the strain of years of emotional rejection, amplified by the open courtroom setting. Meri's calm and calculated interjections serve as both counterpoint and insight, subtly guiding the court to understand that while mistakes were made, the complexities of love and loyalty cannot be reduced to black and white narratives. Christine's barrages keep coming, sharp and biting, as Kody, Robyn, and Janelle must move through the courtroom with care and emotional strength, each response monitored by the judge and the audience, each hesitation charged with meaning. The emotional tension is greater than ever, and the atmosphere can break at any moment. Suddenly, an unexpected piece of testimony emerges. A former family confidant steps forward with allegations that nobody saw coming, detailing private actions and secrets that threaten to upend the carefully constructed understanding of the family dynamics, leaving everyone in the courtroom and the audience stunned. Kody struggles to maintain composure. Robyn listens with a mixture of fear and calculation. Janelle's tears flow freely, and Meri's measured gaze pierces the room, assessing the impact of every word, every claim, every accusation. The lawyer for the defense objects, the judge calls for order, yet the emotional current is unstoppable, the tension palpable, the courtroom vibrating with the raw weight of human emotion. Picture the horror of being forced to confront your deepest secrets with the people you care about most, with no escape. Christine takes advantage of the moment, speaking in command, laying out implications, and creating a narrative that puts Kody, Robyn, and even Janelle in difficult positions, each accusation striking with accuracy and emotional resonance. Robyn stands again, balancing herself, giving evidence that is defensive yet quietly challenging, emphasizing sacrifice, motive, and unseen facts, challenging the audience to rethink loyalties and assumptions. Janelle's voice quavers as she speaks of battles past, quiet betrayals, and unacknowledged pain, creating an evocative image of a family rent by emotion and misperception. Meri's calm but incisive observations continue to shift perspectives, providing nuance and reframing what the courtroom has seen so far. Every revelation is a spark, threatening to ignite decades of suppressed pain and unresolved conflict. As the session nears its climax, a shocking confession emerges. A family secret nobody expected. a revelation that shifts the balance of power in the courtroom and compels every member to rethink alliances, trust, and the reality of their relationships. The room all exhales as one, but for a fleeting instant, since the judge indicates that more remains to be said, that the outcome is still beyond reach, and that the next session will require the last shred of emotional stamina from the family. Christine looks over at Kody, eyes burning. Robyn clutches the table for support. Janelle dries her tears staring at the floor in shock, and Meri just sits there, serene and calculating, realizing the storm is far from over. Will this news finally drive the family to the brink of shattering, or will they manage to cling together in spite of the heartache? The following chapter will tell it all. The court lulls into a tense silence as Session 5 opens, but the atmosphere is by no means dissipating. Kody sits slumped forward, eyes bleary but watchful, emotionally drained from laying bare decades of family secrets, and Robyn sits next to him, hand lightly grazing his, a small gesture of support in the maelstrom of blame and revelations that have shaken the room to its very foundations. Christine observes with a rational intensity, knowing that the emotional burdens of the past sessions have created fissures in her family's solidarity, and she is set to exploit them strategically while keeping herself composed. Janelle quietly gathers a tissue, her face white, the combination of sorrow, fear, and lingering incredulity there, as Meri's tranquil stance conceals the mental working through of the emotional turmoil, her eyes betraying the sharp calculations in her head. Can you picture the weariness of not only coming under legal scrutiny, but the constant exposure of all personal and emotional vulnerabilities? The courtroom is brought to order by the judge, and a silence descends upon the gallery as the first witness is wheeled forward, a family friend of long standing whose testimony concerns moments of unspoken sacrifice, fragile juggling acts of allegiance, and the emotional weight that each family member has borne silently, unseen but deeply felt. Kody gets up to answer, his tone controlled but filled with emotion, describing hard choices he had to make in order to safeguard the family. Choices misread or misrepresented in the hope of filling the chasm between testimony given in court and the truth as he sees it. Christine interrupts sharply, her tone biting, slicing his words apart with surgeon's accuracy, pointing out contradictions and gaps, every charge landing like a ton on Kody's shoulders, the courtroom seemingly holding its collective breath with every word. Each word uttered here holds decades of secrets, betrayals, and silent suffering. Robyn moves forward next, her tone firm but with a hint of frustration and sadness, recounting the sacrifices that she has made for the family, how she tried to mediate conflict behind the scenes, and the private moments of pain that have passed unnoticed amidst the continued fighting. Her testimony highlights the nuances of family loyalty and love, challenging Christine's more aggressive narrative and subtly shifting sympathy toward those who have been quietly holding the household together. Janelle resumes speaking, telling of times when her attempts at creating harmony were disregarded or disdained, of quiet battles with feelings of isolation and the insidious workings that have influenced family dynamics, leaving the courtroom visibly shaken by her unvarnished candor. Picture having to relive every instant of silent suffering in the presence of your whole family and strangers as well, and realizing that each statement could turn the scales of judgment. Meri then delivers a calm, thoughtful testimony, examining the tangled skein of choices, motives, and misapprehensions, adding a perspective that reinterprets some of the charges already leveled and deepening what had been seemingly simple altercation. The defense lawyer cleverly introduces letters and communications implying a more cooperative effort on the part of the family than had been suggested by Christine's account, introducing a subtle tension as the courtroom considers alternative versions of reality. Kody tries to explain himself, admitting previous errors while affirming that some of the decisions were done in the best interest of the family. But Christine continues her tough cross-examination, with her sharp questions putting the focus on the areas of possible misjudgment, mistakes, and apparent manipulation. How did you reconcile your love for your family with the openness and continuing questioning by the public of your decisions? The testimony of the witnesses becomes more compelling as new disclosures emerge. Minor but telling events that had been disregarded, unnoticed, or deliberately suppressed, revealing nascent betrayals and miscommunications that have taken years to develop and leave festering emotional wounds in every part of the family. Robyn offers further evidence pointing to moments of comprehension, cooperation, and shielding measures that refute Christine's claims, insisting that the internal dynamics of the family are a lot more complicated than initially seem. Janelle's voice cracks once more as she speaks a second very personal story, an argument years earlier that had left her wondering where she fit into the family, and the courtroom hangs on the vulnerability and raw emotion of her words. Witnesses seem to be visibly shaken while others look unconvinced. Each revelation cuts deeper into the emotional core of the family, touching no one. Meri explains patiently, unwraps a number of Christine's arguments, adding context that alters the courtroom's perception. Her observation being that although there were errors, a lot of what was done out of care and concern, not wicked intent. Kody tries to weave the strings of the story together, recognizing pain and error while pointing to the intricacies of holding harmony in such a singularly constructed family. His voice cracking now and then beneath the emotional burden of telling decades of intertwined lives and choices. Christine takes every chance to challenge these assertions, her quick interjections dotted with biting examples, while Robyn strives to tread carefully in her replies, keeping her cool even when the emotional heat is about to boil over. Consider the mental and emotional drain of having to justify love, loyalty, and intent under the glare of legal examination. The session goes on as the courtroom becomes filled with strained back and forths, each debate infused with personal history, emotional depth, and unspoken hurt, so that it becomes harder and harder for any family member to say a word without exposing vulnerability. Kody remembers times when tough decisions were made behind closed doors, decisions that were designed to uphold stability, while Christine contextualizes these very same times as proof of favoritism, mismanagement, or carelessness with other people's emotions, and a dance ensues of accusation and defense. Robyn describes a string of subtle interventions she made to forestall conflict, safeguard children, and soften damage, highlighting the effective labor that is frequently invisible, and Janelle and Meri provide supporting viewpoints that fill out and complicate, causing the court to balance not only facts, but motivations, compassion, and relational depth. Each second, each gesture, each utterance is consequential, and the effective tension is almost unsustainable. The judge pauses every now and then, letting the seriousness of testimony settle in the room, but the tension is still there, building like a storm on the verge of breaking as Christine serves up a scathing line that silences Kody for a moment and makes Robyn's eyes flash with held anger. Janelle's tears well up, filling the air with a mournful whisper, a reminder that the courtroom is as much a theater of legal debate as it is a forum for years of intimate suffering stripped bare, as Meri watches, her icy exterior supplying a counterpoint to heighten the emotional impact of the drama unfolding. The lawyers move carefully, objecting, redirecting, and questioning skillfully. But the family's emotions are the ones that fill the room, each tentative look, sigh, and quiver of the hand amplified under close scrutiny. Would you be able to bear to see your family come apart while fighting to shelter them from the blowback? Suddenly, a bit of evidence appears. An unseen message that runs contrary to long-standing beliefs, with implied alliances and motivations that no one had thought of, causing shockwaves in the courtroom and compelling everyone to rethink earlier comments and actions. Kody's face tightens, Robyn's lips press together in silent determination. Janelle's hands tremble as she clutches a tissue, and Meri's eyes glint with the sharp calculation of someone who sees the broader picture more clearly than anyone else in the room. Christine leans in, sensing the vulnerability, poised to take advantage, but the emotional richness of the family story starts pushing back, exposing the complicated web of love and loyalty, errors, and protective urges that have informed all interaction. The emotional stakes have never been greater, and the burden of disclosure hangs on every heart in the room. As the session approaches its end, each member of the family has revealed intimate histories, justified themselves, and faced uncomfortable truths, but the general resolution still recedes from view, balanced precariously between conflict and fragile comprehension. Kody takes a deep breath, his shoulders weighed down, knowing the fight is not yet won, and Robyn keeps her hand close to his, a subtle signal of comfort, and Janelle sits assimilating in silence, still shaken by the emotional vulnerability. Meri sits composed, serene, but watchful, knowing the court will reconvene and the next batch of secrets may flip everything once more. Christine's rigid expression foretells the trial still to be endured, a reminder that the battle for perception and control is far from won. Would this family be able to ride the emotional tempest? Or would the load of secrets, misconceptions, and betrayals finally shatter the ties that bind them? The next installment vows even more exposure and heartache. The courtroom convenes once more, tension continuing to seethe like a sleeping volcano, as Kody sits with squared shoulders but weighed down eyes, knowing the session that lies before him will require precision, strength, and emotional fortitude, while Robyn's delicate touch upon his arm offers the slightest comfort in the maelstrom of scrutiny and ongoing suspicion. Christine leans forward, attentive and tense, her voice soft but slicing, ready to undercut every defense, analyze every subtlety, and take advantage of every moment's hesitation. Her confidence unbroken after the previous sessions had shown weaknesses in her family's story. Janelle takes a deep breath, composing herself, aware that her own testimony will again need to be vulnerable, honest, and brave. And Meri wears an even keel, her eyes taking in every move, every look, calculating how every bit of testimony tilts the precarious scales of perception and power in the room. Can you envision being in a courtroom where every look, every intonation, every hesitation is parsed for underlying significance? The session is called to order by the judge, and a quiet falls over the room as the first witness is called. A distant relative who has watched for years from the periphery of the family dynamics and who provides perspective that undermines assumptions and accusations, and whose words create ripples of tension at once that spill across the courtroom. Kody stands up, trying to clarify, to describe the intricate emotional and financial choices that have guided the household, asserting that always his were love, loyalty, and protection. But Christine cuts him off with a stern, calculating question, pointing out possible contradictions and bringing up new issues that leave Kody temporarily speechless. Robyn comes next, her voice firm but laced with emotion as she describes the silent sacrifices she has made, the late nights interposing between warring parties, and the implicit compromises that have maintained peace, her words drawing a more complicated portrait that cuts starkly against Christine's combative one. Each disclosure is like treading along a high wire, with the least error potentially unspooling everything. Janelle's voice shakes when she recalls instances of exclusion, quiet favoritism, and hushed battles, her tears streaming down as she uncovers decades of emotional anguish, and the courtroom responds, some witnesses nodding in comprehension, others frowning in incredulity at the intricacy of the relationships. Meri comes forward, unflustered but sharp, providing insights that recontextualizes past statements, marking the gray areas wherein intent, perception, and emotion blur, leaving the courtroom with no choice but to deal with the complexities of human relationships instead of all or nothing suppositions. The prosecutor summons a surprise witness, an old employee who presents details of intimate family interactions that had not been known before, presenting new insights, concealed tensions, and motivations that shift the courtroom's perception once more, leaving Kody and Robyn struggling to keep up while Christine's pleasure is barely suppressed. Could you keep your cool when secrets surface and flip everything you'd thought was resolved on its head? Kody stands up again, confessing to previous errors, underscoring intent in an effort to close the gap between what is perceived and what exists, and to humanize those choices under duress and uncertainty. Robyn's soothing interjections reassure him, elaborating on actions taken to save relationships and secure stability, with a tone that is both conciliatory and firm, showing emotional intelligence on trial. Janelle remembers one especially painful moment from years past, an argument that had left her wondering if she belonged in the family, and both the price of silence and the strength it takes to finally speak, leaving the courtroom profoundly moved and unsettled. Each word, each hesitation, each tear raises the stakes and the emotional content of the room. Meri then adds another level of sophistication, a letter that tests the assumption of alliances, intentions, and fidelity, proposing some so-called betrayals were misunderstanding, miscommunication, or cautionary actions and not manipulations, compelling both the court and the family to reassess their prior judgments. Christine shoots up sharply to rebut her own conclusions and arguments offered, her voice biting and sharp, but subtle doubt crosses her face as the implications of the fresh evidence become clear. Kody and Robyn pause, one side glancing the other with a look full of mutual comprehension. an unspoken recognition that they have to tread warily, balance candor with diplomacy, and answer with both lucidity and calmness to preserve their family's integrity. Picture your whole family's history laid open, your motives accused, and your purposes examined under the scrutiny of the public and justice system. The courtroom becomes more strained with each new witness testimony. Quiet conversations, secret letters, and carefully kept messages that reveal a more complex story than anyone expected, contradicting tidy notions of good and evil. Janelle's tears return, her vulnerability palpable as she recounts sacrifices and quiet acts of care that had gone unrecognized, her voice cracking under the weight of unspoken pain, while Meri's calm analysis serves as a counterbalance, providing clarity without dismissing emotional complexity. Robyn navigates new charges with care, balancing compassion with logic, pointing to the fine art of maintaining family peace in a situation where misreadings may become hyped into feelings of betrayal. Each disclosure, each point of view, reshapes the emotional and psychological landscape of the courtroom. Christine, feeling the delicate balance, pushes harder with her questioning, testing for discrepancies, holes, and weaknesses. Her voice stern but calculated, every word carefully chosen to pack the greatest punch while maintaining an edge of plausible deniability. Kody answers with a blend of humility and confidence, trying to wed the allegations with the emotional reality of his experiences, highlighting the love and care that underlay every choice in spite of appearances. The judge interrupts periodically, reminding all involved of courtroom protocol, but the emotional subtext is undeniable, the tension in the air palpable, the audience feeling viscerally the burden of the family's collective history, conflicts, and unresolved hurt. Could you walk through a room where any word might reshape your relations and your reputation? Surprisingly, a bombshell emerges, an old family letter that adds motives, misunderstandings, and intentions no one had thought of, tilting the story and making both Christine and the court reevaluate what is happening. Robyn's subtle gesture to Kody announces a silent comprehension. The spotlight should stay on transparency, integrity, and strength in times of emotional turmoil. Janelle shares one last piece of testimony for the session, recounting moments of loyalty, quiet heroism, and sacrifice that complicate the narrative further, leaving the courtroom caught between outrage, empathy, and uncertainty. Meri's calm presence continues to offer perspective, emphasizing context, intent, and the intricate web of relationships that define the family dynamic, reframing conflict as a combination of human imperfection and care. Each revelation, each sob, each subtle movement adds to the unfolding picture of the emotional terrain of the family. Near the end of the session, Christine makes one final acerbic remark, underscoring continued repercussions of previous choices, the reverberation of loyalty and betrayal, but the emotional burden of earlier disclosures conditions the effect so that the courtroom remains in a tightrope suspension of thought. Kody breathes slowly, shoulders falling with relief and fatigue. Robyn is composed but alert. Janelle dabs at a tear as she looks away into the distance, and Meri stands quietly, balancing the emotional and factual nuances with careful measurement. The judge breaks for the day, threatening a brief respite, but promising the impression that the storm rages far from completion, and that the next hearing will require yet more heart to confront deeper secrets and unresolved tensions. Would this family be able to weather the destruction of secret truths, or will the burden of discovery ultimately shatter the ties they had fought so hard to keep intact? The session that follows holds out even more tears, drama, and surprises. The courtroom is electric as Session 7 opens, with all eyes on the family, and Kody perches beside them with a sense of nervousness and resolve, shoulders back, aware that today might bring them into contact with truths that will mend or irreparably shatter their ties. While Robyn sits at his side, fingers loosely locked, an act of friendship and loyalty in the face of the impending tempest of accusations and revelations. Christine inclines forward, a calculating intensity in her eyes, ready to dissect, challenge, and use every nuance of testimony, every hesitation, every emotional lapse, while Janelle's hands shake ever so slightly as she is about to relate experiences that have made her vulnerable for years, the anticipation almost strangling her. Meri, serene and self-contained, watches in silence, eyes darting between family members and lawyers, weighing the effect of each word and each discrete response, knowing that each word uttered here today holds the confluence of past, present, and future relationships within the family. Imagine sitting in a room where every secret truth you have ever learned is about to be revealed and there is no escape. The judge brings the session into order, and the first witness, an old household staff member, comes forward with a testimony so incendiary that it immediately causes waves of shock and incredulity in the courtroom, exposing private talks, hidden decisions, and hidden alliances that none of the family expected to be exposed publicly. Kody stands, attempting to answer in measured composure, reiterating his motives, the intricacies of juggling multiple relationships, and his efforts at maintaining equality and love. But Christine interjects, her caustic questions slicing through the air like a knife, compelling Kody to answer not just for his actions, but for his character under intense examination. Robyn is next, her voice unflinching but with a hint of emotion, sharing stories of self-sacrifice and unassuming intervention that disrupt Christine's story, pointing out the unseen toil involved in protecting and sustaining the home. Every sentence leavened with implicit appeals to sympathy and compassion. Each disclosure is a shockwave that risks unwinding decades of well-nurtured friendships. Janelle's voice trembles when recalling past encounters and neglected attempts to broker peace, revealing the emotional price paid by unrecognized sacrifices and secretly whispered manipulations, as the courtroom visibly responds. Faces display empathy or skepticism, and a shared tension hangs visibly in the air. Meri stands up, serene but keen, offering background and information that undercuts both the accusations and defenses, shedding a larger context of family politics that makes everyone rethink assumptions, allegiances, and agendas. The defense presents newly revealed correspondence, messages, and personal notes, each one adding another layer of complexity to the tale, showing that what seemed betrayal to one might have been protection to another and gradually tipping sympathy and impression within the courtroom. Could you remain composed while every intention, every blunder, every secret action is exposed for judgment? Suddenly, a bombshell confession comes along. A family member confesses to behavior and choices no one saw coming. A revelation that recontextualizes everything that came before, redefines relationships, and has Kody and Robyn racing to react without adding fuel to the fire. Christine takes advantage of the opportunity with precision, her tone crisp and authoritative, parsing the confession, asking more questions, and insisting on clarification, while Janelle and Meri consider their replies carefully, knowing that a single slip could forever change the dynamic of the courtroom. Robyn talks again, her voice measured but firm, methodically, laying out motives and choices, her words underscoring both love and nuance, but Christine counters unremittingly, her sharp questions revealing perceived inconsistency, gaps, and unacknowledged effects. Just imagine your family's darkest secrets being spilled, every move called into question, and every motive laid bare under the scrutiny of your loved ones and strangers everywhere. The tension in the courtroom mounts as cross-examination is permitted by the judge, building a dramatic give and take between Christine, Kody, and Robyn, each question increasing the emotional stakes, reviving unresolved issues, and bringing all parties face to face with uncomfortable realities. Janelle, her eyes welling up, remembers a decades-long secret betrayal, her voice breaking with the pressure, as the audience and court gallery crane forward as one, her candor's burden making itself felt almost visibly by all who are present. Meri intervenes calmly, providing quiet explanations and background that moderates some of the more passionate declarations, bringing a gaze of reason and perspective amidst the chaos that is threatening to build to a frenzy. Each word uttered holds emotional value with the potential to sway perception, allegiance, and judgment within seconds. The court brings in a surprise witness, one who has witnessed the family dynamic outside of the home, whose words verify some accusations while refuting others, adding yet one more layer of intrigue, tension, and complexity, leaving Kody and Robyn tiptoeing in their responses in an effort to shield their reputation and relationships. Christine leans in, applying the new facts to impugn credibility, pushing for concessions and candor as Kody stands up, voice strong but with an edge of pain, trying to make the hard choices human and appealing both to reason and to feeling. Robyn jumps in to affirm Kody's assertions, noting her own personal sacrifices and insights, stressing love and protection fueled actions misunderstood, as Janelle shares some more painful memories, providing emotional depth, empathy, and complexity to the courtroom drama. Could you bear seeing your family's emotional topography torn apart little by little, each memory and intention balanced out in public? Tension reaches a boiling point when a surprise piece of evidence, a confidential letter from Kody expressing inner doubts, fears, and agendas, emerges, sending shockwaves through the courtroom, compelling Christine, Robyn, Janelle, and Meri to rethink what they believed they knew, the letter weighing heavily on their conscience, bringing the emotional intensity to almost unbearable heights. Kody's face tightens as he contemplates the implications. Robyn maintains a calm but alert posture. Janelle's hand shakes slightly as she grips her notes, and Meri's eyes narrow with quiet calculation, sensing the strategic and emotional impact of the new revelation. Kristen walks quietly, enjoying the increased tension, her tone crisp and incisive as she questions Kody regarding the letter's information, compelling him to justify his decisions, motives, and emotional openness to critique. Robyn thoughtfully replies, offering context and perspective, highlighting that personal struggles do not discount intention, devotion, or love, and Janelle provides supporting insight that lends emotional gravitas and authenticity, leaving Christine momentarily disrupted. With each disclosure, each witness, each emotional fissure heightens the tension and expands the richness of the courtroom drama. With each additional confession and explanation that comes out during the continuation of the session, each one adding complexity to previous charges, the audience discovers the complicated mesh of love, loyalty, miscommunication, and deception that has ruled the family dynamics, testing the courtroom to break out of black and white stories. Kody tries to negotiate misunderstandings, admitting errors but justifying intentions. His rhetoric sincere and honest, while Christine responds with accuracy, cutting through inconsistencies and highlighting the emotional effect of previous behavior perceived. Robyn interrupts with careful composure, placing the family's decisions in terms of protection and care, and the quiet but powerful testimony of Janelle brings humanity and emotional nuance, reminding everyone that love and conflict tend to lie together in tangled, painful ways. Would you be able to hold it together when your family's most intimate battles are picked apart, questioned, and debated out in public? The session builds to its finale as a conclusive, explosive revelation is revealed, a secret pact, an unseen choice, or a concealed action that shatters past assumption and alignments, leaving the courtroom collectively breathing in unison. Some faces white with shock, others drawn tight in thought. Kody exhales deeply, the weight of the emotional storm pressing down while Robyn's hand rests lightly on his, signaling solidarity. Janelle's tears continue to flow, raw and unfiltered, and Meri's calm yet focused gaze surveys the room, aware that this revelation may permanently alter the trajectory of the case. Christine grabs the moment with strategic flair, her tone razor sharp, her questions incisive. But the family's flexibility and strategic answers start to change the angle of view, raising tension, suspense, and an intense feeling of expectation for what is to follow. Each second in this courtroom now represents the turning point, where surprises, feelings, and repercussions come crashing together with explosive force. The judge requests a short recess and the courtroom breathes a collective sigh, but the tempest is not near its end. Outside, whispers and speculation betray the enormity of what has been discovered, and within, Kody, Robyn, Janelle, and Meri steel themselves for the next phase, aware that the final session will require even more emotional strength, strategic wisdom, and fortitude. Could the family weather the revelations, the confessions, and the emotional aftermath, or will they use these secrets to finally break them beyond repair? The last session threatens the most heated, emotional, and insightful moments so far. The courtroom is charged when Session 8 gets underway, each eye riveted on Kody, Robyn, Christine, Janelle, and Meri. The burden of months of revelations, betrayals, and confessions bearing down on everyone as if a physical force. And Kody sits stiffly, teeth clenched, straining to hold his breath, knowing today's events will heal broken bonds or destroy them forever. And Robyn's hand lies gently on his, a peaceful sign of solidarity as they ready themselves for the most pivotal moment so far. Christine sits forward, poised, eyes steady and piercing, ready to take advantage of any doubt, any miscalculation, aware that the emotional and tactical ground is on her side, but sensing that she, too, is open to the revelation that comes with what has been learned in previous sessions. Janelle takes a deep breath, visibly trembling, her hands clasped tightly together as she readies herself to confront the emotional history that has haunted her for years, while Meri's calm exterior masks the intensity of her observation, analyzing every subtle shift in posture, tone, and expression, ready to seize opportunities as they arise. Can you imagine the tension of a room where every word spoken could redefine your family forever? The court is brought to order by the judge, and the first of the witnesses, a family friend, stands to give testimony that is at once revealing and intensely personal, telling stories of quiet betrayal, unheralded sacrifices, and emotional bravery, each word slicing through the courtroom like a knife, making both Kody and Robyn defensive and reflective. Kody stands up to answer, voice resolute but with undertones of vulnerability, speaking of years of decisions made in love, loyalty, and the need for harmony, but Christine cuts in brusquely, voice seasoned with accusation, slicing every word with scrutiny, and making Kody defend not only actions, but even his intent before judge, family, and audience. Robyn trails behind, deliberate and steadfast, drawing attention to quiet efforts, silent compromises, and instances in which she had intervened to uphold peace. Her own voice peaceful, but with an unuttered weight of emotion that rings true to the courtroom. Each word is a scalpel, carving away years of secrecy, loyalty, and misinterpretation. Janelle speaks of one instance of betrayal she suffered in silence for years, her voice shaking as she speaks, tears running down her cheeks, and the room leaning in as a whole, transfixed by the vulnerability, the tension, and the unremitting humanity of her account. Meri then interjects, calm and measured, offering information that recontextualizes earlier allegations, clarifies motive, and brings light to the intricacies of the family's internal workings, presenting depth and complexity that the court will need to carefully weigh. There is a twist of drama as a hitherto undisclosed document is presented. A letter written by Kody detailing personal doubts, anxieties, and contemplations about his relationship with each of the wives, showing motives, regrets, and efforts at fairness that undermine previous claims, casting shockwaves across the courtroom. Christine jumps on the chance to ask Kody about the letter, her tone slicing, but Kody deals with it through a combination of honesty, humility, and emotional openness, underlining his reason for acting out of love, protection, and a need to maintain the family unit. Robyn carefully reinforces Kody's points, highlighting sacrifices and interventions that were intended to preserve harmony, while Janelle corroborates certain actions, revealing both the cost and the intent behind decades of family choices. Could you maintain clarity and composure when every intention, decision, and secret is under scrutiny? The courtroom drama reaches its peak with Christine uttering a poignant line regarding trust and loyalty, making everyone consider their relationships, decisions, and previous misunderstandings. Kody stands up again, voice full of emotion, saying, regret, hope, and appealing for an understanding, while Robyn's composure gives way to interventions that emphasize unity, empathy, and shared accountability. Janelle goes on, speaking of her own moments of strength, pain, and determination, leaving the courtroom profoundly affected, and Meri sits in silence, calculating the effect of every disclosure, each tear, and every reaction. And then, in a dramatic turn, new evidence presents itself, an audio tape of an intimate conversation, which explains motives, uncovers long-concealed truths, and turns assumptions on their heads, shifting the perceived scales of fault and allegiance, leaving the courtroom stunned. Each disclosure fans the emotional flames, requiring attention, sympathy, and introspection. Christine responds quickly, using the recording to call out motives, but the family members, especially Kody and Robyn, respond tactically, focusing on context, intent, and the nuance of love and loyalty in their non-traditional family dynamic. The courtroom becomes a battleground of emotion and logic, tears flowing, voices quivering yet firm, as past actions are dissected and intentions scrutinized. Janelle's sobs punctuate her testimony, adding raw emotional depth, while Meri's calm clarity provides a stabilizing counterpoint, guiding the court to see beyond the surface of accusations into the layered realities of human emotion and family loyalty. Can you handle seeing difficult things about your family's innermost feelings, secrets, and regrets laid bare for judgment? The tension hangs in the balance as Christine confronts Kody with a question that compels him to decide between honesty and defense, openness and maneuvering, and the courtroom as a whole waits with bated breath as he answers, weighing humility, responsibility, and emotional honesty. Robyn stands by him gently, providing background and supporting his motives, and Janelle provides insight, reminding the court that love, sacrifice, and perseverance are part of knowing the family's dynamics. Meri stands forward to make an observation that rescinds past conflicts, citing misunderstandings, unwitting affronts, and the fine ballet of loyalty and concern that has characterized the family's interactions for years. Each encounter in the courtroom is a thin thread which can hold together or unravel the emotional tapestry of the family. A final dramatic revelation surfaces, a confession, an act of secret protection, or an acknowledgement of misjudgment that none of the family members expected, causing Kody, Robyn, Janelle, Meri, and even Christine to face the emotional repercussions and the long-standing intricacy of their relationships. Christine pauses, processing the new information, and the courtroom falls into a heavy silence as the weight of decades of family history hangs palpably in the air. Kody exhales slowly, the emotional toll evident, while Robyn's gentle touch reminds him of their shared strength and commitment. Janelle wipes away tears while reflecting on resilience and healing, and Meri's quiet assessment contemplates the long-term implications of every revelation. Would the family endure the climax of lies, admissions, and emotional disclosure, or is this the turning point when everything is forever altered? As the session proceeds to closure, every member of the family speaks some final words, apologies for errors, pleas for understanding, declarations of hope, and candid references to loyalty and love, weaving into a cloth of emotion both difficult and lovely. Christine, in turn, reveals a hint of vulnerability for the first time, her voice mellowing as she accepts complexity, history, and commonality, even in conflict, while Kody's reply walks a line between humility and optimism, acknowledging weakness but demonstrating commitment to family unity. Robyn points to empathy, patience, and quiet action, while Janelle to strength, perseverance, and the value of being heard. Meri concludes with a tempered consideration, weaving together strands of fidelity, devotion, miscommunication, and human fallibility, leading the courtroom and the viewer to a rich appreciation of the family dynamic. Each tear, each admission, each uttered word has rewritten the narrative with the tenuous and resilient strands that bind the family together. The judge ponders the evidence, recognizing the emotional richness, depth, and changing perception of relationships, and indicates that the session is over, leaving the audience and family with unanswered questions, emotional resonance, and deep reflection. As the family gets up, Kody looks at Robyn, Janelle, and Meri, a silent recognition of common resilience, while Christine sends a subtle nod, an indication of tentative reconciliation or at least understanding possibility. The session concludes on an open-ended question to the audience. If you were in their shoes, how would you navigate loyalty, love, and truth when every choice carries a lifetime of consequences? Comment below with what you think. Whose side would you be on, and how would you handle these secrets? The courtroom slowly empties, the emotional resonance of confrontation, confession, and reflection still hanging in the air, leaving the story poised between resolution and the threat of future tension. A fine ending to a gripping, emotional, and unforgettable ride.